City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Holmes. Here. Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Grover. Here. Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk. Here. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Nguyen. Here. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
9-0, Madam Mayor.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, March 28th, 2011 meeting of the Evanston City Council. I have several announcements. It is National Fair Housing Month in April. National Public Health Week is April 7th through 13th. Shore Community Services 60th anniversary is April 9th, 2011. And is Chief Kleiber here? Chief. All right, Chief Kleiber, take it away, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Kleiber, Evanston Fire Life Safety Services. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to introduce our two most recent promotions to my command staff within Evanston Fire and Life Safety Services. So, Madam Mayor, Mr. City Clerk, citizens of Evanston, and City Council members, what I'd like to do first is introduce our Division Chief of Life Safety Services, Dwight Hull, who through an oversight on my part was not presented formally to the City Council back in October when he was promoted. We had an internal swearing-in ceremony for Chief Hull. If Chief Hull could stand up here for a second. Dwight is in charge of our EMS and special rescue teams. And as you know, if you remember my annual report from a couple of meetings ago, EMS comprises about 60 to 65% of our service. So Dwight has quite a responsibility on his hands. He filled the position that I vacated, so I have a real understanding of what he does. And from what I've seen over the last 6 months, I really appreciate what he's been doing for the citizens of Evanston, not only with EMS, but with our special rescue teams, which comprise our technical rescue team, hazardous material team, dive rescue team, and wave runner rescue team. So Dwight is started with the city of Evanston in 1992 as a firefighter paramedic. In 2007, he was promoted to captain, and since that time, he was promoted, as I said, last October, and he's really been instrumental in an implementation of an electronic patient care reporting system, which Dwight came along at the right time because I was handling that until he came along, so I appreciate what he's done in that respect because it's very challenging. So, again, I wanted to introduce Dwight Hull, Division Chief of EMS, to our community. Next on the agenda is our most recent promotion, Division Chief Jeff Block. Jeff, if you could stand for a second. Thank you. Division Chief Block will be in charge of our training and professional standards. It's a highly critical division within our department. We are forever continually being challenged with both suppression improvements and innovations, and I'm highly confident that Jeff will fulfill the responsibilities and duties that we need in this critical area of our department. Jeff started with the city of Evanston in 1987. In 2006, he was promoted to fire captain, paramedic. Some of his responsibilities up until this point have been implementing the software and mobile computer system for our firefighters when they respond to incidents. So we had this software. Jeff was responsible for implementing this, and what that allows us to do is our firefighters, while they're en route to incidents, they can pull up data on the buildings that we're responding to. So it's very important information. It was a bit of a challenge, as any kind of new software is, but he handled it very well, and all of us are appreciative for it, and all of us who respond to incidents utilize this innovation. He's also been a member of the MABUS Division III Hazardous Materials Response Team. and is currently a member of the Division III Fire Investigation Strike Force. Since 2008, Jeff's been assigned to the department's Inspectional Services and Building Inspection Division, Bureau, Fire Prevention Bureau, and he's done excellent in that area as well. He has a degree in fire science management from Southern Illinois University. So with that, with these two most recent promotions, as some of you may know, we've been in a bit of transition in our command staff. I now have Dwight and Jeff, as well as Division Chief Tom Janetsky, and we're going to be working together for quite some time. So it brings some stability to the organization, something that I've looked for a while now, and it's my honor to bring Jeff up and have him to be sworn in by Mr. City Clerk, and take it away.
Don't turn your back on your public. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeff Block,
I, Jeff Block,
having been promoted to the rank of Fire Division Chief,
having been promoted to the rank of Division Chief,
I do solemnly swear to abide by the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear to abide by the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I do, through the Cook County aforesaid, I do solemnly swear to abide by the rules and regulations,
I do solemnly swear to abide by the rules and regulations,
and that I will discharge the office of Division Chief
and that I will discharge the office of Division Chief
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my ability.
Put your hand down. I need you to sign. Congratulations.
One more detail to take care of. We have Jeff's wife Denise here to pin the badge on Jeff's dress coat. Jeff. There you go. Andrew, come on up. Jeff's daughter's it's on a spring break trip, so she's missing out on all this fun. So.
Thank you, everyone.
City Manager, do you have public announcements and presentations?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. First, I'd like to ask Bill Geiger of the McGaw YMCA to come up. There's been some exciting changes in the Y movement over the last several weeks, and Bill is here. There's Bill. Bill is here to give an update to the council and to the community. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, and thank you very much. My name is Bill Geiger. I'm President and CEO of the McGaw YMCA. I'm also a resident of the City of Evanston, a proud resident, I should say, of the 8th Ward. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. Thank you for your service, City Council members, City staff, and engaged citizens. And thank you for your support of the McGaw YMCA, especially during our 125th anniversary year in 2010. I'm here tonight to introduce what YMCAs across the country are calling brand revitalization. Tonight you'll hear some about changes made nationally and some locally. What's changing? Well, our mission and what we do in Evanston is not changing. but how we convey what we do is changing. Our messaging and our visual look, logos, and color scheme are changing to better reflect our mission and to help identify all YMCAs as one cohesive national unit. This will provide our community, members, and donors with a clear understanding of who we are both locally and nationally, and our impact on both a local and national scale. While many YMCAs nationally will increasingly be heard and seen as the Y, we know that in Evanston there are two great Ys, the YM and the YWCA. We honor the work and impact of our great YWCA by consistently referring to ourselves as the McGaw YMCA, and look forward to ways to continue to partner with the YW and with other community organizations. So why is this messaging and this look changing? While the YMCA has one of the most recognized names in our country, the perception that people have of us does not accurately reflect the impact we have in the long term in so many communities. Most view the YMCA as a program service provider of gym and swim versus a cause-driven charitable organization. We believe a clear understanding of all we do to create healthier communities in Evanston and around the nation will provide us opportunities to better serve our community. So what do we do? What we do is summed up in the phrase of strengthening the foundations of community. We aspire to be impactful and action-oriented, working on the chronic needs of the community, not short-term crises. We provide a continuum of care for families from early childhood through early adulthood, continuing throughout the circle of life, generation upon generation. And we remain true to our 125-year legacy of service to the children, youth, families, and adults of all ages with a renewed focus on youth development, nurturing the potential of every child and teen, on healthy living, improving our community's health and well-being, and social responsibility, giving back and providing support to our neighbors near and far. These three areas of focus, youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility, these foci are the fabric of the YMCA, with the thread of our values, caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility, strengthening and distinguishing the weave of our community quilt that is the McGaw YMCA. When will you see this change in the McGaw YMCA and around our community? You may have already heard about the McGaw YMCA and this message and the shift beginning in February of this year. You'll also start to see visual changes right now at various events at the McGaw YMCA. Physical changes, our website, and media communications will also begin to reflect this change, and some of you may have seen the banners already in the blocks surrounding the McGaw YMCA. But I ask you, what does this really look like? Well, a snapshot of an Evanston family, a second and third generation Evanston family, challenged by the economy and serious illness, whose YMCA membership is supported by the YMCA community of members and generous donors, whose kids participate in YMCA programs, who go to Camp Echo, where the eldest is now ready for a leadership program, and where the mother has found an environment, staff, and members who've supported her personal journey to renewed health and well-being. And on Sunday, she completed her first indoor triathlon. That's just one of many, many stories of the impact of the McGaw YMCA. So I invite you any afternoon, any evening, any Saturday or Sunday to come and see your YMCA in action. And I also ask you to challenge us to be that YMCA that we aspire to be. In closing, thank you again for this opportunity, for your service to the community, and for your support of the McGaw YMCA and our commitment to youth development, healthy living, and and social responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Madam Mayor, our next presentation is from the National Environmental Hall of Fame, and we are being honored this evening by the National Environmental Hall of Fame for our community's outstanding commitment to creating a sustainable community. Deborah, is it Ponman? Ponman from the Environmental Hall of Fame is here with us this evening. Ms. Ponman, good evening.
Okay, thank you. So on behalf of the Environmental Hall of Fame, and being a citizen of the great city of Evanston, it really truly is my honor to give this award to Mayor Tisdale as the leader of our great community, and to formally announce that Evanston has been inducted into the local chapter of the Environmental Hall of Fame. And here's your award. I'm going to talk a little bit about why Evanston is receiving this award. Right. And just by the way, the Environmental Hall of Fame has given awards to environmentalists like Pearson Keeley Shea Brosnan and most recently,
Ford.
oh yes, and Art Linkletter before he passed away, and Harrison Ford. And we've also given awards to 30 mayors and sustainability officers of cities around the country, now 31. And we've also given Hope Awards, which is Hero of Planet Earth, to over 300 students throughout the country for their science projects that have been sustainability oriented. And most recently, we gave awards to some Chicago City school children, and Ed Begley Jr. came to the award ceremony along with Manny Flores, Alderman Flores, and we're hoping that we could continue that in the Evanston School District, which actually has been pretty active. So I'm going to enumerate some of the accomplishments. There are way too many to read all of them, but it's a very, very impressive list. So the city of Evanston has been raising environmental awareness by creating and continually pursuing goals under the Climate Action Plan, which was adopted by the council in 2008. This plan organizes over 200 emission reducing strategies and has been raising awareness through leading by example. Prior to this, Evanston had already adopted the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. Recently, to continue their commitment to, I should say ours, it's not theirs, our commitment to reduce, reuse, and recycle, the city completed a community-wide residential recycling container conversion project that dramatically increased the city's collection capacity. The city also hosts electronic recycling events throughout the year for recycling other waste like fluorescent bulbs, thermometers, medication. In the area of sustainability in homes, Evanston offers the Residential Weatherization Grant Program, where qualifying residents receive an energy audit and a contractor to weatherize their home for free. To date, 46 units have benefited from this program. In 2010, Evanston residents rose above other Illinois communities to win an energy efficiency campaign with the Citizens Utility Board, and we were presented with the Super Savers Award for saving the most energy and having the most registered participants. In the area of sustainable buildings and schools, the Evanston City Council adopted a green building ordinance requiring that all new commercial and municipal construction over 20,000 square feet achieve LEED Silver certification, and buildings 10 to 20,000 square feet must either achieve LEED Silver certification or employ building efficiency measures from a list developed by the city of Evanston. Also, the 7 largest, I hope you're not bored, the 7 largest employers in Evanston and are all competing in the Cub Energy Saver Challenge. And both Evanston School Districts 202 and 65 are actively working to improve the sustainability of their schools with involvement of parents, teachers, and students in green teams and other school district-wide programs and activities. So many other accomplishments. I'll just list a few more. Multiple farmers markets throughout the year that offer locally grown produce to area residents, a sustainable pest control ordinance, funding to construct a 25-kilowatt solar PV system at its water plant, which will significantly reduce its reliance on carbon-intensive sources of energy during the day, excellent public transportation service that gives residents options beyond driving a car, as well as car sharing locations around Evanston by iGo and Zipcar. Of course, ongoing installation of bicycle racks and bicycle lanes to encourage bicycle use. The benefit of the educational efforts of the Evanston Environmental Association, who co-sponsors the Green Living Festival, which educates citizens on how to adopt green practices, reduce their carbon footprint, and the EEA's carbon footprint curriculum for kindergarten through 5th. This curriculum, by the way, has been used by 7 District 65 classes, and over 200 students have been a part of this. In addition, the city is in the process of completing several energy efficiency projects, including lighting upgrades and improvements of the water treatment plant, which will result in significant reduction in the city's greenhouse gas emissions. And simply because Evanston has made environmental stewardship a top priority, both within the City of Evanston's strategic plan and across the countless volunteer hours spent on efforts to promote recycling, energy efficiency, water conservation, waste reduction, pollution reduction, and protection and restoration of our natural areas. For this and much more, pages more, we present this award to the great and very green city of Evanston. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and come back and speak again anytime.
Madam Mayor, that completes our reports.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications for us?
Just one, Madam Mayor. Just keep in mind that this Thursday is the last day for early voting for the school districts 205, 202, and 65, and that the regular municipal voting will be on April 5th from 9 to 6. Just keep that in mind. I know this is school recess for the summer break. Was it summer break? No, spring break, sorry. But like I say, Thursday is the last day for early voting.
Thank you. Next, we have citizen comment. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Please come up and wait for your turn when I read your name. All right. 2 speakers are conceding their time to Mr. Cannon. So would Mr. Douglas Cannon come, Leigh Skinner, and Virginia Mann?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Aldermen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Douglas R. Cannon. I'm an attorney. Mother said never concede that that's a bad thing, and I won't. The key here is I'm here representing Padma Rao, R-A-O, and her mother, B.K. Rao. And congratulations on the Environmental Hall of Fame Award. Ms. Rao, Dr. Rao, have a question. In light of that award, why is the city in the process of destroying 24 or more mature trees, some as old as several hundred years, in the Kendall property development? This has been a matter of some concern. I'm certain you have heard her in-depth analysis and legislative analysis of the city ordinances involved and the ordinance that created the Kendall property present situation. That ordinance created a planned unit development. Yes, it's not going to go forward as it was originally planned. It's here for re-evaluation, and that should include the plan for the trees. And under the present plot, such as we've been able to determine, and that's another point, it doesn't look that those trees are going to survive. And this is a serious consideration, ladies and gentlemen, specifically in light of the award that you were just given, and of which you are obviously and justifiably proud, as every citizen in Evanston ought to be proud. But if facts don't bear out the reality, then the award becomes something other than what it is meant to be. becomes a badge of not good business. Dr. Rao has pointed out in some significant detail in her communications the apparent lack of transparency with regard to this transaction and the ultimate resolution in the finding of the plat that's before you this evening. There was communications she extended to the counsel for the city, asking questions with regard to interpretation of the ordinances involved, never responded to. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't call that transparency. I know this council doesn't call it transparency. So what is the problem here? What is going on? What is so urgent about this development that it's going head forth without a real clear determination of what is going to happen to those precious trees? Ladies and gentlemen, after 300 years or more, don't you think that tree has a right to survive and be honored by the community that has fostered it? Some of those trees have been here longer than this country's been here, according to my client's information. In that case, both she and her mother make a very ardent plea to this city council tonight. Reevaluate, please, the plot. Discuss it in full tonight, without reservation. You're about to vote on it. I think it's the next item on the agenda or shortly thereafter. Give it some thought. The objections she's raised are accurate. She is detailed in all her correspondence to you. I'm not going to bother to try and recite it all for you. You've got copies of it, I'm certain. They deserve to be answered, the questions that she and her mother have raised. It is a matter of deep religious faith to both of them, the preservation of living life, particularly trees. As you well know, Dr. Rao is not afraid to plunge forward in defense of those constitutional issues that she feels most ardently require her defense. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Best wishes on your award, and keep in mind, an award without true action is no award at all.
Thank you.
Hi, Lee Skinner, 1123 Noyes Street. First, I just wanted to start and say that Alderman Jean-Baptiste was a lovely alderman, and I will miss him, but good luck to you. I didn't realize when I moved to Evanston that I was going to have to get a master's degree in elm trees. But I have one, and I hope that you will rely on some of my expertise and Virginia Mann's and your forestry department. When a lot of elm trees started dying in 2004, 2005, we started a campaign, a green ribbon campaign, to get the city to start vaccinating elms, and they did, and it's been very successful, and we're now voting on the last 800 that are not in the program. We've proven multiple times that it is less expensive to vaccinate the elms than it is to let them catch the disease and cut them down. It's 33 times less expensive for the city. I believe in 1999 you had 7,000 public elm trees. When we finally got the vaccination vote in 2006, you had 4,000 elm trees. We now have 2,900. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to realize that we are losing elm trees at a high rate. We started vaccinating in 2006. The ones that were not in the program, we're still losing them at a very high rate, about 220 a year. 220 trees a year is $726,000 in cut-down costs and grinding stumps and planting new saplings. That's a lot of money, a lot more money than your program. So please vote for option 1. You voted, I don't know, it was in December, to put the 800 into the vaccination program, and the citizens expect you to do that. I've actually been asked to speak in Wilmette and Winnetka to talk to them about their vaccination programs, and I plan on telling those towns to call Paul D'Agostino and try to pool your resources, and maybe you could buy the Arbortect fungicide as, you know, a 3-town deal and maybe get a better price. But you must vote for option 1. I also want to say that this memo about the 4 different options for the elm trees has a lot of typos in it, especially the stuff at the bottom of every graph. It was supposed to be taken out. So there's a lot of misinformation on this, but you need to vote for option 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Virginia Mann, 3004 Normandy Place. Evanston has a long and glorious history with its trees. Planted first as part of the major city plan, the elm trees have graced our streets, protected our environment, and improved our property values for over 100 years. I believe we're approaching our 150th anniversary soon. And most of those trees that we see today were planted back then. Clearly, if you listen to other speakers on unrelated topics, there's tremendous passion for trees in Evanston. And part of that passion is certainly because of the ambiance they create, because of the property values that they enhance, because of the environment that they help protect. But part of it, at least from this Republican's perspective, is also economics. Last November, we were here and we talked about the economics of tree removals. And we talked about the fact that from 2006 to 2010, 491 uninjected public elms were removed at a cost of nearly $1.5 million real tax dollars out of my pocket and the pockets of every citizen in the city. Those trees could have been injected for $98,800 with a 99% success rate. Clearly, if you want to cut the budget, if you want to save tax dollars, if you want to make the best use of citizen funds, you will inject every tree and adopt option one, which I believe, if we go back and look at that council meeting, is what was actually passed by the city council last December. I hope that you will, the council today, will do what it did last December and provide for injection for every elm tree in this city. Because as I said at that time, the elm trees on my block are going to be injected no matter what. My neighbors and I have been raising funds to inject them. The elm trees on Lee McIsaac's block are being injected, and Mimi Peterson's block, and several others. But what about the neighbors in each of your communities who haven't gotten their master's degree, so to speak, in elm tree preservation, who don't know about the disease, who don't have the wherewithal, the time, the energy, or the funds to join together to inject their trees? Why should they suffer? Why should they see their community values depreciated, the ambiance of their community change, the character of their neighborhood decimated because this council did not do what twice already it has promised them to do, to inject every elm tree? I will remind you that not only was that promised to them last December, it was promised 5 years ago when this council was packed, absolutely packed, these council chambers, with members of To Rescue Evanston Elms. And during the dark of the night after everyone had left, that council changed its vote. Don't let this council share that same terrible legacy that your predecessors shared. Do what you promised the people of Evanston last November or December and inject every elm tree and be fiscally responsible for our trees, our community, and our taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Jill Willis, Robert Buchanan, Betty Esther, and Keith Banks together.
Good evening, Mayor Tisdale, Council, members of the public. My name is Jill Willis, and I first want to commend the city for addressing what I think is a very important issue, that is of affordable housing. It is something that most cities are dealing with, and I think Evanston should be commended for its role in addressing that. Secondly, I think we should be very proud of the fact that HUD has given us money to address this issue. But what I find most alarming is the contract that the city has in addressing that and in working with an entity that is a non-Evanston entity, Brenshaw, and an entity that is not set up via its contract to necessarily involve Evanston businesses and Evanston services in implementing that. I think that is a travesty. I think that is a matter that should be addressed by the citizens of Evanston and by the council, and if at all possible, there should be ways found to address that within the contract with Ben Brenshaw to make sure that Evanston entities, Evanston businesses have a greater role in the provision of affordable housing for its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Robert Buchanan. I live at 914 Brown Avenue. The reason I'm here is to voice my opposition to the paving project 1506. My main concern is both Brown Avenue and Gray Avenues were turned into cul-de-sac streets because of the traffic from the businesses on Lee Street and Greenleaf Street, using them as through streets to Main Avenue. Now, currently there are business trucks and some employees from these businesses using the alley as a thoroughfare to Main Street. I believe if you pave it, it's only going to encourage more use of that as a through street because it's a very narrow alley. Additionally, I think it's a completely unnecessary expense to the city and to the residents of these neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I signed up, but I'm not going to speak. I was asked to sign up for Keith Banks and Bennett Johnson. So they're the ones that wanted to speak. So
That's
they'll be
fine.
speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Keith Banks. I live at 2125 Washington Street, Evanston, Illinois. I'm coming before the city to talk about my concerns about the NSP2 program and the Homes Funds program. I come before you with mixed feelings. I am very encouraged to live in a great city like Evanston that has great resources, great programs, and a great city staff to work with. I've had the privilege of working alongside city staff as a executive director for one of the city's CHODOs. I just was very disappointed that with the NSP2 program that the CHODOs were excluded from the program and not allowed to participate. And I felt that, the city of Evanston should value its community organizations, and one of the fastest ways to help grow the economy is to support local businesses. So I just found it rather ironic that we would be shut out and excluded from the process. We have brought a lot of valued services and resources to the city. We are from the community, of the community. We help to provide jobs, job training. We hire local minority contractors. We're already certified to deliver affordable housing products with the city. We've been very successful in doing so. So I just found it ironic, since there's always been a big emphasis on supporting people who live here and work here, and we got an outside developer, and they weren't required to partner alongside local smaller developers and contractors to help them to build their capacity as we work very hard to build our track records. So, it's hard to build a track record in your capacity if you're totally excluded from the process. So I just found that, very unfair. As well as, with Brenshaw being the developer, the contractor, and then everybody else having to bid as subcontractors, it's very difficult to make any money or any profit in the whole process. And so I think that moving forward, the process needs to be improved to allow more participation for community organizations and local community developers and contractors. There needed to be a more fairer distribution of the resources so that we could build wealth amongst ourselves. And having participated in the home program, I think it's a great program with a lot of great services, but that process needs to be improved as well, because we're only allowed to do one project at a time, And if you're a developer, you need to have projects in the pipeline, and if there's a long lag period between when you're able to do projects, you're pretty much dead in the water. So it's kind of real difficult to be successful. So I would encourage you to meet with us to talk about how we can improve the program so that it's a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bennett Johnson. I live at 708 Washington Street. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Evanston Minority Business Consortium, Incorporated, a new not-for-profit organization whose mission is to help develop the city of Evanston and the businesses in the city of Evanston according to the mission of NSB 2. First, I'd like to thank your new director, Steve Griffin, who has met with us and dialogued with us and has heard what we are about to say, and also the new alderman, Mr. Braithwaite, who's also listening to what we have to say. So I'm not here tonight to list a bill of particulars. We'll come back with that. But I wanted to make sure that I recognize and you see the people who are involved. One you just heard from Keith Banks and Betty Sue Esther with the Chodos. Clifford Washington is a demolition contractor. Calvin Lynn has PDQ, who's a general contractor. Jesse McFadden, who's a welder. Randy Roebuck, who's a real estate professional. And you also heard from Jill Willis, our attorney counselor. John Barner Williams, who's with the faith community. Who am I missing? I can't see all my folks. Oh, that's Dave Jackson, the painting contractor, and Todd Smith, the general contractor. I'm not sure if I got everybody. The point is I'm trying to make is that we are composed of Chodos, minority contract. Oh, Joe Mercick, is he still here? Is Joe still here? Yeah. Of Evanston-based businesses, women contractors, real estate professionals whose mission is to develop the city of Evanston. And we feel that's very consistent with the NSP2 program. However, as it stands now, the present configuration and activity does not achieve the mission, and we're going to come back with concrete suggestions. We always meet on Saturday at 10 o'clock, and any and all of you are welcome to come and visit us, just like Mr. Braithwaite. Ms. Holmes has also been there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin O'Connor and Junad Rizki.
Good evening. Kevin O'Connor, 1227 and a half Isabella. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I would just like to say I overheard a disturbing discussion out in the back behind the glass there, which I reported to Marty Lyons. And I would invite any true watchdog journalists, because this issue deals with lack of transparency and rubber stamping of the issue of which Dr. Rao has spoke so eloquently of. Now my remarks. I come to speak tonight about the status quo, specifically as used by our city manager in his context of our city, quote, faces a potential $1.2 million deficit just to maintain the status quo. I have good news to report tonight to my fellow citizens. If our city manager takes the unused $400,000 sitting in his contingency fund and dismantles the 311 system, which cost approximately $611,000, the city's alleged deficit will reduce to $200,000 plus or minus. Our city manager, who works only for the city council, who work for the citizens of Evanston, does not understand that the only reason we have deficits is for the poor fiscal decisions this council and previous councils have made and continue to make. Our city manager says there is no money to pay back $111 million in capital debt. However, the council is voting tonight to spend for consultant work and environmental site assessment for Robert Crown Center, agenda items A3.1 and 3.12. That's out of the capital improvement budget of $143,000, in the amount of $143,000. Last budget cycle, we heard our city manager state that he heard the citizens loud and clear about wasting money on consultants. Obviously, our city manager was overruled by our elected officials who continue to spend money and then wonder why we are broke. The reduced services the taxpayers are receiving and the promise of more reductions to come reminds one of the quote by Joseph Sobran. Under our system of government, the less government does for you, the more you are likely to owe. There are many other inconsistencies and false choices in our city manager's budget scenario presented last Tuesday. Certainly too many for the pittance of 3 minutes granted a citizen to speak. I would strongly urge this council to take ownership and responsibility for the fiscal bankruptcy we find ourselves in. Anything less than total honesty about how we got here and cessation of playing neighborhood against neighborhood for political gain will result in all the citizens being unable to join together as Evanstonians to solve these difficult problems together. Only an honest and transparent council will change the status quo, which, by the way, the status quo is totally unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight I will comment on the budget planning session presented on March 22nd. The process the city wants to follow with community input, in my mind, is a waste of time of staff's energy and residents' time. The process highlights the lack of sound leadership. The city manager needs to be directed to provide the necessary cuts to the major departments. That's police, fire, water department, street sanitation, and recreation. Then the community needs to understand what those cuts are, so everybody gets a real impression rather than go through some computer-generated process. Every employee's position needs to be clearly shown as what they do in organizational charts, which I feel have been somewhat lacking here. Let me now go on to the presentation. The assumption the city is going to see a 2% revenue growth, in my opinion, is unlikely and may lead to problems. The assumption of 1% salary increases and freezing all salaries, while not likely, the scenario should be shown to the public and what those will do with the budget. I think the presentation talks of outsourcing, and to me, 311 was a perfect example of something that should be outsourced. A bunch of employees at the police station using manuals doesn't seem to me to have any, that's something that could easily have been outsourced. Going on to the presentation, it showed me once again the city is not clear what it's doing with our capital expenditures. Most of the items shown were really maintenance. Also, the city showed a high number of high costs for the fleet, and that was again confusing. And did we just let all these vehicles run down, or do we really have too many vehicles? And really back to the capital plan, to me it appears to be quite in chaos. I really don't have a lot of confidence in it because back in 2009 the capital plan was shut down. And then again, there were numerous delays in the presentation of the capital plan. About a few months ago, I FOIA'd some information on capital project management here, and what it became clear to me is there are not proper tools to manage the capital for city staff, which leaves that's why you don't have proper, really, knowledge of what's going on here. I do have only one comment on the capital slides, and I could comment a great deal more. It was quite disturbing in that a city employee is being required to go into a confined space in an unsafe manner. This, I believe, puts the city in a lot of liability. It also puts the employee in great risk. This is not being done properly. It's really quite concerning to me, and the city should deal with it. Either this should not continue to occur, or if this employee has a problem in that confined space, you won't be able to extract them. So that's all I have to say to that. I could say more. I feel the goals of the council really don't have much to do with the harsh economic realities we're about to face here. And I think the council needs to really start looking at all these expenditures extremely carefully. I don't feel there's much more left that we can do to manipulate the funds here and switch them around between funds and do things. And I don't think we're going to have the luxury of really passing the budget off to someone else. And I'll really just close on that. I believe this next budget cycle will be quite difficult. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. Next, city manager, we have a special order of business.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As you know, from time to time, we come to the council with a report on your council goals, and the issue of affordable housing is one of those 13 goals. I've asked our community development team that deals with housing to come before you this evening and make a report. As you heard from the speakers, there's been a lot of focus on the NSP2 project, so we will certainly cover that. But I think it's also important to reiterate to the community that that is not our only way to deal with affordable housing issues here in the city of Evanston. We are working on many fronts. I think admittedly the NSP2 process is not a process that really allows for a lot of creativity in how we can operate and how we can actually implement affordable housing. There are other programs, however, that we have control over that I think do give us more flexibility. So hopefully with the report this evening, not only will we give you an update on the specifics of where we are at with NSP2, but also talk about the other affordable housing initiatives that we're very proud of and we feel go a long way toward meeting the needs of Evanston residents. And Mr. Griffin, our Community and Economic Development Director, will start.
Thank you. My name is Steve Griffin, Director of Community and Economic Development. The majority of community and economic development staff are directly or indirectly involved with implementing the City Council's priority for affordable housing. I've asked Sarah Flax, our Housing and Grants Administrator, Jolene Saul, our Housing Specialist with NSP2, and Mary Ellen Poole, our Housing Planner, who are most directly involved with these programs, to speak to you on three basic fronts. One is that they present the many different programs that we administer to support and implement the council's this council priority. Two, that and we provided that in your packet, that we have a organization chart where we highlighted those staff that are most directly involved with phone numbers for you on the different housing programs, and those staff that that we have in place that administers the funding that supports affordable housing. And then finally, to review the primary funding sources of the city's housing program. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Sarah Flax, who'll get into the meat of the program. And then, as I said, Jolene and Mary Ellen will speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mayor Tisdall and members of City Council and citizens of Evanston for allowing us this opportunity to update you on affordable housing. Affordable housing is one of the council's priorities, and for purposes of defining affordable housing, which can be many things to many people, broadly speaking, we're looking at housing for individuals and families of modest means who, based on the local housing market, are likely to spend more than 30% of their gross income on housing. HUD's term for that is a household that is housing cost burdened. There's been a lot of research into how much one should have to spend on housing versus other aspects of your life to have take care of all your economic needs. What are our resources for dealing with affordable housing? Well, this chart, a little complicated to look at. NSP2, which is a 3-year grant, $18.15 million, is certainly the most visible short term of our programs. Jolene Saul, we'll talk a little more about that later. She and I do the administrative work of that program, but many, many other staff people are involved in that. Our home program, Home Opportunity Partnerships, is a HUD entitlement grant program. We get home funds every year. We right now have approximately $900,000 that is unobligated that we are evaluating for uses for, and we get approximately $500,000 each year. That's our allocation. Home differs a bit from NSP2 based on who the housing has to benefit. HUD defines everything based on income levels. NSP2 can go up to 120% of area median income. Home is limited to 80% and less of area median income. Mary Ellen Poole, our housing planner, will talk a little bit more about home shortly. She'll also talk about the Affordable Housing Fund. This is a city fund. It isn't a HUD fund. And the Affordable Housing Fund was created out of the Mayor's Special Housing Fund and other sources of revenue that the city has defined for affordable housing. The demolition tax goes into the Affordable Housing Fund, as does in a planned development of condominiums. If affordable housing units are not developed on site, that there is an in lieu fee that goes into the Affordable Housing Fund. Another short-term grant, which is not so much housing development, but is to help people who have been displaced or at high risk of being displaced due to the housing crisis, is the Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Fund. That, like NSP2, was funded out of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. It is a fund that we are using to help stabilize the housing of people most impacted by the economic recession and the housing crisis. Then we also have CDBG, another one of our workhorses along with home. The city uses approximately $900,000 each year on housing-related activities from its CDBG fund. That includes a number of different programs. Our housing rehab program, our code compliance program are the primary ones. So even though, for the most part, I've been saying who are the staff people responsible for administering these grant programs, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the program staff that are really funded through CDBG housing programs. Within our housing rehab division, most of, approximately 75% of the budget that shows up in the budget book is CDBG funded, and that funds 2.3 FTEs involved in the housing rehab program. Most of that work is rehab of owner-occupied housing. The Housing Code Compliance Division is also funded in large part with CDBG, and this is because we have a defined area and a defined program to really monitor and improve our rental housing for low and moderate income people. The city has allocated just over $415,000 of its CDBG funds this year for code enforcement, and that's a very important way we work to maintain the quality of our affordable housing. Where do our housing goals come from? Well, there are three main sources of those goals. One is the comprehensive plan. The city's 2000 comprehensive plan really talks about the importance of maintaining the desirability of Evanston housing stock and the range of choice. To be able to have people of all income levels live in Evanston and to find the types of housing they need, be it apartments, condos, townhomes, or single-family homes. One of the other concerns that the comprehensive plan has tasked us with is maintaining affordability and addressing conditions that detract from neighborhood quality of life. In 2009, there was a task force, a housing task force, that developed additional goals for the city. Those are primarily focused on expanding rental housing for individuals and families with incomes at or below area median income, to use the foreclosure crisis to see if there are ways we can develop and maintain long-term affordable housing. At the time the affordable housing plan was developed, we were of course still waiting to hear that we would get, if we would get NSP2 funds, which we did. And the third goal is to publicize, use, and build on existing successful home ownership programs. You'll hear more from Mary Ellen about that in her presentation. We also have the third source of our goals, which is the 2010 to 2014 HUD Consolidated Plan. This plan really lays out the housing goals and, well, all goals of our entitlement grants, CDBG and home, but another requirement is that all our other HUD grants be in compliance with and supportive of that consolidated plan. So they must be certified as compliant with that. Both NSP2 and HPRP were. Each year, we do an action plan about how we're going to use our entitlement funds, and each year we do the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, which reports on the accomplishments of prior year. We are waiting, the 2011 action plan has been approved by HUD. We're waiting on our grants this year. We are in the process of preparing the CAPER, which is the 2010-11 CAPER, and that will be brought to council in May and then submitted to HUD. I'm now going to bring Jolene up, and she's going to talk about the Neighborhood Stabilization 2 program.
Sarah, thank you very much, and thank you yet again for your role in bringing the $18 million to town.
Good evening. My name is Jolene Saul. I'm the housing specialist for the NSP2 program. And as the name says, the goal of the program is to stabilize those neighborhoods that have been the hardest hit by the foreclosure crisis. And there's two parts to the city's program. So the first is the acquisition and rehabilitation of 100 units of foreclosed and abandoned housing. And half of those units will be for sale and the other for rent, with a priority for Evanston residents and Evanston employees. The other piece of our program is a new mixed income development on the west side of Evanston called Emerson Square. All funds, as Sarah indicated, must be expended by February 2013. Right now, we spend approximately $4.2 million in acquisition, development, and administration costs. And of that $4.2 million, approximately $3.3 has been for acquisition alone. There we go. Since Friday, we've actually acquired 3 more properties. So our total unit count is, our total property count is 37, and we have 57 units that have been acquired, with an additional 13 units under site control, which means they're either under contract or we have price agreements. So we're close at 70 that we have site control over towards our 100-unit goal. Construction has started on 5 properties, which represents 9 units, and we anticipate that the first set of units will be ready in the summer and fall. And we fully expect that the summer will be a very busy construction season, as we are definitely under the clock on this program. Now, while the primary goal of the program is neighborhood stabilization, we do realize that there are economic opportunities to be had from this grant. There's several goals as part of the program for contracting and hiring. So the first goal is that a minimum of 25% of subcontracts go to minority or women-owned businesses or Evanston-based businesses. And then HUD has what they call Section 3 goals, which is primarily, the goal is to increase economic opportunity for low-income businesses and residents. And so 10% of subcontracts should be awarded to Section 3 businesses, that's the goal, and then 30% of new hires are to be Section 3 residents. And we've also actually updated this chart since Friday evening, and so now we're at $1.2 million of subcontracted costs. Overall, 77% are MWEBEs, and to break that down even further, about 50% are minority businesses, 23% women-owned businesses, and 76 Evanston businesses. And we're at about 45% for Section 3 businesses. So thus far, we've exceeded our goals to date and expect to continue to do that throughout the life of the grant. In terms of employment, thus far, 40 jobs have been retained or created. 13 of those are new hires, and 10% of those are Section 3 residents. And Brinshaw and staff continue to work to make this program more accessible for local residents and businesses. So we will, just some new developments, we'll be implementing twice monthly payments for our subcontractors. It was previously once a month. And also, Brinshaw has stated that they'd be willing to purchase materials for contractors that will have difficulty carrying those costs while they wait to get paid. So we're making progress. I think we're doing pretty well so far. And I will now turn it over to Mary Ellen Poole, who will talk about Home and Affordable Housing Fund.
Thank you, Jolene.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ellen Poole. I'm the housing planner for the City of Evanston. I currently manage the Federal Home Program as well as the Local Affordable Housing Fund. These two funds are the main sources for the development and the preservation of affordable housing in Evanston. With the home funds, we were able to assist projects for households at or below 80% of the area median income, which we touched upon a little bit earlier in the presentation. But for a family of four, that means around $60,000. The Affordable Housing Fund allows a little bit more flexibility in that we can go up to 100% of the area median income, and for a family of four, that's around $75,000. In fiscal year 2010-11, the approximately $393,000 of home funds assisted two separate projects totaling 35 units rehabbed for special needs housing. Both projects were for low-income adults with developmental and/or physical disabilities. On the homeownership side, the city's down payment assistance program, which uses both home and the affordable housing funds to make loans up to 17% of purchase price, has helped 33 homeowners to date, and that's a great accomplishment. Foreclosure continues to be a concern for our community, as in many communities. And the city's partnership with Interfaith has provided counseling and other very valuable services to 39 households. Looking forward, we will focus our home funds on affordable rental, as well as looking at homeownership projects where appropriate, all according to market demand. Just recently, City Council approved a renewal of a grant to Interfaith to continue their foreclosure services to Evanston residents, and they hope to help at least 60 households this year. So we're making progress on all fronts. I'm going to hand it back over to Sarah Flax to continue.
Thank you.
Back to CDBG for a minute. Little more information on our specific rehab goals and what we've accomplished. With CDBG housing rehab, CDBG doesn't let you develop new affordable housing. You can't go out and construct new housing with CDBG, but you can fix housing that needs to be rehabbed. And historically, we have filled a very important need, which is to provide low-income or even zero-income title transfer loans to homeowners to rehab their homes. Plus, our rehab staff helps them by serving as the project manager so that they don't have to figure all that out on their own. But this is a very important way we have of helping our low-income homeowners, especially seniors who may own their home outright but simply do not have the funds available to make home improvements, maintain the quality of their homes and the safety. CDBG can be used for things like somebody's furnace goes out. We can install a furnace for them. We can fix their roof. Home doesn't allow partial rehab. You have to bring the whole unit up to a specific standard. So we use CDBG in home very differently based on the different types of programs that they are to help in many different needs. What else are we doing with CDBG? In 2009-10, we rehabbed 9 housing units, owner-occupied. We also used our rehab staff to administer the energy efficiency and conservation block grant dollars that were earlier referred to, the weatherization program. And through that, we helped an additional 42 households, all different types of properties, but to weatherize those homes and improve their affordability in the long run, because your utilities actually play a huge, huge part of housing affordability. In 2011, we will continue our housing rehab. We have pretty much expended all of the weatherization funds, not quite, they're being final projects are being completed, but we'll continue our housing rehab as we have for, I think, about since we first got CDBG back in about 1975. It was really hard to go back and find the total number of units that have been improved through CDBG. It's someplace over 500 was the best guess we could get. It's huge. In addition to CDBG, we mentioned the Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program. Again, this is a one-time grant fund program through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, but we've been able to do a lot to help people most in need of stabilizing their housing. We've assisted working with subrecipients, which include Connections for the Homeless, CETA Neighbors at Work, our primary case management agencies. We've helped 57 households to retain stable housing, and we've helped 43 homeless households to attain permanent housing, stable housing. That program will continue throughout this year. We expect that we will expend all funds probably by the end of this calendar year, even though the grant allows us to continue into 2012. All funds have to be expended by September. We could talk forever about affordable housing goals and what we're doing on it, but we'd rather turn it over to you for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I think you've explained it very well. I don't see anyone with questions. Rodney? Mr. Green?
Okay, in your statements about the NSP2 monies that are being worked through Brenshaw, you stated that the funds were to be, the homes that you started construction on should be completed by this summer, or are you talking about next summer? Next summer.
First homes will be complete by this summer. We will be bringing homes to market starting this summer and going all the way into 2013.
Second question. So the homes that have got the sidings and the roof and the doors and things taken off 2 months ago that stopped are now going to be completed before the summer. Because right now, some of the houses are now entertaining varmints in the neighborhood. The squirrels, raccoons, and rats are now occupying a couple of the homes that I do know of, especially the one next to me, where stuff is now coming off the house into our yard. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going to happen with that house and how soon will you get it completed?
That particular house has had the first work done, which is the environmental testing and lead abatement. It will be under rehab starting hopefully next week. It's a gut rehab. It's going to take a number of months to actually complete, and the house does have a lot of challenges. I mean, we jokingly said it came with a amenity, a skate park in the living room because the floorboards were so warped. We're not going to kid you, that one's going to take a while, but we are working on it.
Alderman Burris?
Thanks. I just want to say, great job on the subcontractors focusing on the MWEB. Wonderful. But I was wondering if you could expand on how you went about, or Brinshaw went about marketing and looking for these subcontractors. I think that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sure. One of the things that the city has done to provide Brinshaw information on subcontractors who are available is to, first of all, qualify as many contractors or businesses as will give us the paperwork as Evanston businesses, minority, woman-owned, and Section 3 businesses. We have a list of about 200 total businesses. Many of them are Evanston businesses, and we have qualified businesses every way we can to give priority to them. In our hiring, in a case, and this is based on HUD's Section 3 program, in a case where we have comparable bids and a business is a Section 3 business that is located in either of our two census tracts that are our priority area for NSP, they would get the contract, all comparable bids. Second, an Evanston business that is a Section 3 business would get preference. Third, all else. So we are using everything we can in our HUD toolbox to provide geographic priority to Evanston contractors, especially Evanston Section 3. When we have bid packages available, we email that entire list. We've run ads. We've tried everything we can to publicize them. We're always looking for more ways to get the word out. Any help anyone can give us, we appreciate. We have a pre-bid conference for each bid package to explain any questions. All interested contractors, subcontractors can additionally submit written questions. Those are answered to try to clarify any questions anybody has on the actual bid packages.
Thank you, and now I see no further lights yet again, so Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First item on the consent agenda is approval of minutes of the regular council meeting of March 14. City of Evanston payroll through March 13 in the amount of $2,462,035.56. The City of Evanston bills for 2010-11 through March 29 has been altered, and that new amount is $1,209,762.82. The City of Evanston bills for the fiscal year 2011 through March 29, $906,275.92. The next item is A3.1. It is off the consent agenda. A3.2, these have to do with Robert Crown consulting reports, is off the consent agenda as well. Item 3.3, approval of the 2011 special events calendar. We request your approval contingent upon compliance of all requirements as set forth in the special event policy and guidelines, with the exception of one new proposed event, women's TK9 race. It requires further discussion, and a recommendation for this event will come at a later time. This is for action, and the committee chair will make an additional report when she makes that report. Item A3.4 is also off the consent agenda. That is the approval of the 3-year elm tree injection program. A3.5 is for action. The committee requests your approval of a contract in response to bid 1185 to award the 2011 motor fuel tax street resurfacing contract to Schroeder Asphalt Services in the amount of $693,865.90. We ask your approval also of the estimated annual user charge for 2011 with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for disposal of sludge generated as part of the water treatment process, and that is in the amount of $300,958.19. The next item, approval of purchase of recycling containers, is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Resolution 16R11, authorizing the city manager to execute an easement agreement with Sunesis LLC for the installation of dark fiber optic cable, is for action tonight. There will be an easement fee of $5 per square foot for 13,800 square feet for a total of $69,000 to be deposited in the right-of-way account. There is no public dollars being spent here. Item A5 is for action. We recommend your approval of the ordinance 19011, by which the City Council would authorize paving of the alley north of Main. I'm wondering, does anybody want this off the consent agenda because of the, no. North of Main, east of Gray Avenue through the special assessment process. 50% special assessment funds and 50% by homeowners to be collected over a period of 10 years. This is for action. We ask your approval also of proposed ordinance 20011, by which the council will authorize paving of the alley north of Brummel, east of Callan, through the special assessment process. The estimated total special assessment cost of paving this alley is $61,150.10. Ordinance 21011. The local liquor commissioner recommends city council approval, and the committee concurs for the adoption of ordinance 21011, which amends the city code 356(y) Class Y liquor licenses to regulate wine tastings and to permit sales of warm beer. The proposed ordinance will permit licensees to charge for wine tastings and to sell warm beer in no more than 10% of the area of their stores. We're going to planning and development now. Madam Mayor, as part of the consent agenda, I'm recommending that Resolution 13R11 be removed from the table. And I will let the committee chair address the resolution itself. Okay. Next is Ordinance 11011. This is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Next, Madam Mayor, is Human Services report. The Human Services Committee recommends approval of language modifications to the proposed tree preservation ordinance 5011 as recommended by the Public Works Department, Economic Development, and the Utilities Department directors. Next, under Rules Committee, this is Resolution 22R11, the Mayor Pro Tem schedule for the remainder of the 78th City Council. That's for action. Finally, we have Resolution 21R11. We ask the Rules Committee asks Council's approval to release the closed session minutes listed in Exhibit A. They go from 2000 to 2010, various sets of minutes that the Council has determined along with the legal department can now be released. Under appointments, we have for the Library Board the appointment of Margaret Lurie. For reappointment under the Sign Review and Appeals Board, Susan Phelps. With that, Madam Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no lights for discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
9-0, the motion passes. Alderman Holmes, could we have Administration and Public Works, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would move approval of the contract awards for the Crown Park Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental site assessment and preliminary geotechnical engineering services to Environmental Protection Industries.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to establish for those who have questions about our need for consultants on this project. My two questions are, do we have the in-house expertise to do an environmental Phase 1 and Phase 2 site assessment? And my second question is, could we even proceed with an RFP for the Crown Center without doing a Phase 1 and Phase 2 study or without doing a financial feasibility study?
Doug Gaynor, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Madam Mayor, members of the Council, Clerk Green. No, we do not have staff in-house that could conduct this environmental study. Second of all, we felt that in order for us to provide the ultimate information for the three groups that have been pre-qualified to submit proposals for the Crown rebuild, that this information would be critical for them, and we felt it would be appropriate for the city to provide that information, as we would have confidence that the consultants that did this work worked for us and provided us the information, and it didn't have any one of those three groups coming up with their own information independently.
Thank you. Does that answer your questions, Alderman Grover? Yes, thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was home listening to ANPW tonight, and I wanted to talk to you, Doug, I guess publicly, about some comments that you made about the history of the Crown Park site. It may have been a dump at one time, but it was also a fairly significant swamp. And they used to cut ice there for when people had ice boxes that you would put a piece of ice in to keep your food cold. And I believe there are photographs showing a large part of that was swampland. My dad also played semi-pro baseball there a long time ago and talked about remnants of that swamp being evident on the site. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that's part of the problem that contributed to the unstable nature of the existing building. So I just wanted to make sure that you were saying that a couple of the responses that you got back, everyone felt that since it was just a dump, that maybe there wasn't a need for the kind of environmental impact analysis that I think a swamp would require. So I just wanted to point that out, make sure we're taking that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract award. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem?
Aye.
Alderman Grover? Aye. Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Burris? Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
9-0, Madam Mayor.
9-0, the motion passes.
A3.2, I would move approval of the contract award for Crown Park validation and financial feasibility study to HVS Convention, Sports, and Entertainment Facilities Consulting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no lights, City Clerk, would you call the roll to approve the contract award for Crown Market validation and financial feasibility study?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Aye. Alderman Grover? Aye. Alderman Rainey? Aye. Alderman Burris? Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
9-0, Madam.
9-0, the motion passes. The contract is awarded. Alderman Holmes.
On A3.3, approval of the 2011 special events calendar. The committee discussed this at length, and actually Alderman Burris asked for some additional information from the department to give us a chart that would provide us with information in terms of how many events are requested to do on the lakefront, and how many we have to turn down every year, and what would be the possibilities of maybe some expansion there, so that we could make more use of that. And I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it. So that was the additional comment. But we went ahead, we did approve it and wanted to move it on to council for approval.
Okay, did we pass this in the consent agenda, I believe? Yes.
That's all right. Approval of A3.4, 3-year schedule for the public ELMS injection program. The committee, there was one vote for option 1, one vote for option 4, and one vote for nothing. So we decided to bring it to the council for discussion, more discussion.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish I could have been at the committee meeting tonight. If I had, I would have voted for option 1 and joined Alderman Rainey in that vote. And I move that we accept option 1.
It's been moved and seconded to accept option 1. And seeing no other lights, City Clerk, I believe this is a money issue, so Would you call, oh, sorry, Alderman Burris.
In AP&W, I oppose this. Actually, I had a no vote for all of them. And I realize that we'll go forward, but with approving one of the options. But I want to caution everyone that we are once again in a budget crisis. And we continue to kick the can down the road. And option one puts us over the barrel again. And at some point, we are going to have to say no. I know it's hard. I know people that vote for you are going to be angry, and you're going to get emails and phone calls, and people are going to show up at council. But it has been going on for so long. That is why we are in the financial crisis we're in, because no one will say no. If we're going to go with an option, it seems like option 4 gives us the most flexibility in budgeting. So I think we need to really look at our fiscal situation. I know, once again, many wards, you're not having the same pressure from your constituents about tax increases. And we just heard from affordable housing and people being foreclosed on, people having to short sale, people that can't afford to be here anymore. If you look at our census data, our minority population has gone down by 20%. There's a reason for that. So once again, I am an environmentalist. I love trees, but we have to look at people first.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, if you're a real environmentalist, you'll vote to save the trees, because it's not funny. It's a proven fact, and I was absolutely shocked tonight when we got the award that we got no mention of our efforts to save trees. And I don't just mean that, nebulous award of being a tree city, but we do real important work in saving our trees. And, if you're having a short sale on your house and you have a stump in front of your house as opposed to a huge old elm tree, believe me, that makes a difference in the ability of your ability to sell that house. So, you can try to disconnect all these pieces and leave out portions of the puzzle, but they really all fit together. You can't continue to tell developers you can't build here and then complain about taking care of the trees because it costs too much money. They're all related. Everything here is related. Economic development, trees, taking care of them, it's all part of the same picture, and being green. There's nothing greener than trees. It reduces the carbon footprint. It helps. So it costs money. It costs money to provide affordable housing. It costs money to save trees. It costs money to be green. We made a promise here. We made a promise.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. And I am also going to be supporting option 1. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there are very real costs associated with deferring the treatment of the trees. But with that in mind, along the lines of what Alderman Burris was suggesting, in a few months we're going to have to be really seriously looking at cuts. And people in the community are not going to like that. And I don't like it, but it's a fact of the matter. So I'll support this now, but there are other things that are going to have to be compromised down the road.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes.
Well, I think we've been making very serious cuts for quite some time, and we're going to have to make some more. I think Alderman Burris said that we've done fat, we've done lean, and now we've got bone. And I think we have to understand that. I am not going to support option 1. I'm not going to say no. I will support option 4 because I think that we have to. We have to say no to some of our constituents in terms of our budget. And I will support option 4, but not option 1.
Thank you. Alderman Tendam.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too I will support option one, but I did want to ask a question of staff or city manager. It was my understanding at some point we would start to develop a tree fund that would lessen this impact and over the years draw from different sources to make this a permanent fund that would not have to be voted upon or argued about on an annual basis.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Tendem, we will follow your lead if, with the council's decision this evening, and incorporate that into a 3-year funding cycle. I think the issue that came up during your budget deliberations was adding additional trees. So now we will make that budget adjustment so that it will cover all of the trees that are needed over a 3-year funding cycle. So that it will be the latest council directive on policy and will be included in the 2012 budget as that policy. So I think the issue was that there was a number of trees that weren't included in the previous policy. So however your direction this evening, we will make sure we budget accordingly moving forward.
Correct. I actually understand that, but I'm just curious, is there a better, smoother, more streamlined way to do this in terms of setting money aside annually as we do for other funds so that it's guaranteed for trees?
And again, Alderman Tendem, with the council's action this evening, we'll be able to straighten that out. I think there was a little bit of clarity needed in the money we were putting aside, how it was being spent through the council's deliberations back in November. You made it clear that you, regardless which plan you pick, you want that straightened out. So your action this evening will make sure that that's straightened out over a 3-year cycle, and we'll be that way to go forward until the council provides other direction.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I need a little bit more information about options 2 and 3 and what our staff hope to accomplish by presenting those 2 options. Seems to me it's for stability, predictability in the funds.
And as was discussed, Alderman Grover, members of the council, Mr. DiAgostino will explain the 2. We were asked to come back with options. We have the minutes available if we need to read them, but we were asked to come back with options. As I said at committee, option number 1 is the option Minister DiAgostino and his staff, I think, feel is the most appropriate. Option number 4 is one that I like because it provides some financial flexibility for the City Council. So I think 2 and 3 are gradations between 1 and 4. We can explain them in more detail, but I think that's the difference. I too am concerned about continuing budget challenges for the city, and again, we were asked for options, so we wanted to provide you options. But I think the scale from 1 to 4, 1 being the one that I think is the most aggressive in accomplishing the inoculation of all the trees that were discussed back in November. Number 4 also gets us there, but gets us there in a time frame that allows some financial flexibility. But Mr. DiAgostino can give more specifics on 2 and 3.
The city manager is correct. Paul D'Agostino, Superintendent of Parks, Forestry, and Facilities Management. Option 2 just kind of divides the 840 new trees that are being added to the program into half of them will be injected in 2011, half of them in 2012. It kind of smooths things out over the 3-year cycle, but not entirely. Option 2 splits those 840 trees into 2012 and 13. And option 3 does the same thing, but in 2011 and 2012. That's really the only difference. So they are kind of in the middle between 1 and 4, just in a slightly different way.
Right. So the difference between 2 and 3 is that option 3 puts some of those 800 existing, but not
New to the
currently in the program,
yes.
introduces in the program this year
This year.
instead of waiting until 2012.
That's correct, yes. So the entire 840 new trees would be injected by the end of 2012 in option 3.
And option 3 still runs a deficit in the fund balance.
For the first year, yes.
For the first year, but less of a deficit than option 1 does.
That's correct.
Alderman Rainey.
But the finances in option 2 are no different than, I'm looking for the completion of that sentence. Are they, it's the same money, right? Same amount?
They're all a little bit different because there's a slightly different amount of trees getting injected each year.
But in the 3 years, it's the same amount of money.
In the end.
That's correct, yes.
All right, it has been moved and seconded that we vote in favor of option 1. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes.
No.
Alderman Tindem.
Yes.
Alderman Grover.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Burris.
No, sorry.
Alderman Fisk.
Yes.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
7-2.
7-2, the motion passes. We'll use option 1. Alderman
Oh, I'm
Holmes.
sorry.
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 I think you have 2 more.
Actually, one more.
Oh, yeah, 1 more.
I think it's one more. A 3.7, approval of the purchase of recycling containers from Wausau Tile Incorporated. This was being brought to the council so that we could share with the council what those containers are going to look like. And if you look up at the screen, you can see that.
And Alderman Holmes, members of the council, Mr. Schneider's here with the color scheme. This is the photo that we took off of Warsaw Tile's website. That's not the color scheme that we are proposing. Mr. Schneider, would you please unveil the color scheme we are proposing?
Paul Schneider, City Engineer. Madam Mayor, council members, we're actually looking at 2 different schemes. One scheme for the street recycling containers, that would be a bronze metal color with a blue hood. Okay.
So the bronze color would be the perforated around the side
The
there.
body of it,
The
yes.
body of it.
The
Yeah.
Bronze and blue?
Yeah. There's a great deal of concern now. Alderman Rainey.
the real debate.
Where's the blue hood? I mean,
On
is
the
that
cover.
blue?
Unfortunately, we don't have the photo of that. This is a stock
You know
photo.
what, I think to take and stick these cans on the neighborhood business districts with a bright blue hood, and you know it's going to be bright blue, is just not what we're looking for. Why can't it look like, is that a recycling container?
Yes, in fact, the green is what will be in the parks. A green body with a blue hood.
They all have blue hoods?
Yes.
No, because this is a recycling container, and so there will be also stenciled signage on it indicating that it's a recycling. These are recycling containers. So blue is the understood color for recycling. So we thought by having different colors on the body, but a blue hood would help reinforce that it's a recycling container, not a trash container.
I believe the intention is that the hood would be the same color as the recycling receptacles in town.
So that's standard.
I
sort of-
hate it. I just think it just junks things up, you know? We're looking at signage, we're improving facades all over town, especially in the neighborhood business districts. You know, we're starting to go with the streetscape trash cans, phasing out the oil drums, and then we're going to put, I want recycling containers, don't get me wrong, but I think people, you know, can read if you stencil on it recycling. We don't need a bright blue hood on what is otherwise a very decent-looking can.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I've learned a lot about this company in the last 3 hours this evening. They have multiple colors that are available.
I would
So
think
if
so.
the council would like to provide direction, we're looking this evening for your authorization to procure the bins. If you would like to provide direction on additional color, we would be happy to do that again. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to use these bins for their intention, and that is recycling. And other communities have found that using that solid blue color is certainly one way to make that happen. It's not the only way, but certainly that is a conventional practice of other communities.
Thank you. Alderman Burris?
Well, I had a concern about the blue, but also, how do these resist graffiti, and is it easy to get the graffiti off because it's perforated? And
That's one of the reasons I think they're perforated.
great, super. And then the next question is what is our time constraint on approving this?
We have to approve it because
And
Yeah,
again,
I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to clarify that.
we needed to approve it tonight. We knew that.
we are under constraint on the grant funds. I think, however, if we can contract with this company, which has multiple types of containers, if the council wishes to pursue this discussion further, if you could allow us to move forward with the contracting for the procurement, I would imagine that the company would provide us some flexibility if we wish to do a change in our order. But I guess then it comes down to two questions. One, are you all right moving forward with this contract? And if you would like to come back to talk further about color or design, we can do that, but allow us to contract with the firm in order to obligate these grant monies this evening.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you. I'm mostly just interested in getting recycling containers and filling them. And so whatever we decide, other people will decide better than I what color, can they just all be the same so that there's a consistent message about where one recycles in Evanston?
Thank you. Alderman Tendam?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have such a problem with the blue in the parks. I think it draws attention, and in a park you need some attention drawn. On the street, of course, you're passing by, and I think if it simply says recycle symbol is terrific. I would like on the streets for them, it would be nice if they matched the new or existing basket-type trash containers. And secondly, I would think, considering the purchase that we're going to make, they would, or the amount, we would be able to get a sample or something, perhaps, to see it.
And Alderman Tendon, members of the council, we do have a sample. I made the decision not to have an employee come from home between the committee meeting and the council meeting to deliver, but we do have on our premises. So again, if the council wishes to talk further, I would only ask that you authorize that we contract for these, and we could come back and follow whatever additional direction you'd like for further looks.
Thank you.
All right, in a parliamentary fiasco, I have not had this moved and seconded before we discussed it.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you all for bailing me out. I appreciate that.
I had moved it.
Call the question.
This is a money issue, so City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Aye. Alderman Grover?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Burris? Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. Alderman Holmes, that
concludes my report. Yes, Madam Mayor.
Congratulations. Alderman Rainey, Planning and Development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item P1 was tabled and was removed from the table during the consent agenda. Therefore, I move Resolution 13R11, which approves a plat of subdivision for 2408 Orrington Avenue, the former site of Kendall College. And you have in your packet tonight an agreed upon, I guess you could call it substitute amendment that would not only save the tree, but provide a covenant that would run with the land, that would provide, should the tree die or be removed for, whatever reason, that the city would then pave or make an alley out of the remaining property that is beyond the tree, that would extend the alley like most normal alleys. So I move approval.
Been moved and seconded. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask and speak to you about this.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Clerk, members of the council, Grant for our Corporation Council. With respect to the floor amendment that has now been moved to the floor, moved and seconded, this represents the outcome of negotiations between Alderman Fisk, staff, and the developer and the developer's attorney. Responds to a lot of the concerns that were expressed by citizens and some of the council members. So we continued our due diligence in working with the developer and developers council. So the amended resolution and the amended ordinance, which is a separate agenda item, reflect the fact that the tree, the 51-inch oak, is now green, denoted on the tree preservation plan. Also, there are some amendments to the plat of subdivision, and there's also a covenant that will be drafted and recorded that requires certain other protections relative to the 51-inch oak.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen.
What my question was, and you may have answered it, Mr. Farrar, is what are the protections that we're applying to the oak?
The tree preservation plan, the revised, which has been submitted to you, indicates on the portion of the alley that is the portion that is not going to be the alley now. There's a green marker, and under the tree preservation plan that requires Smithfield, the developer, to use commercially reasonable best efforts to protect that tree during construction. So that is clearly listed on the tree preservation plan. And then on the plat of subdivision, there's an indication that shows where the alley does not go all the way through. Said area is where the 51-inch oak is.
All right. Now, is the motion that we vote on the alternate proposal?
Yes.
Alternate resolution. All right, it's been moved and seconded, I believe, that we vote on the alternate resolution. City Clerk, call the roll on it.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burrs.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson. Aye. 9-0.
9-0. Congratulations, the motion passes. It's been more than 7 years since I was the 7th Ward Alderman and first made the motion that this be rezoned R1, and I was afraid it might get to be 8 years.
Yeah, P2.
P2, all right.
Madam
Yeah.
Mayor, I have one more.
Someone want to make a motion?
One more.
P2.
Item P2, Ordinance 11011, accepts the dedication of public alleys as a product of approval of a plat of subdivision for 2408 Orrington, the former site of Kendall College.
Okay, and you're moving it and seconding it. Is the ordinance being amended to mirror the revised language in the other resolution? Thank you. City Clerk, could you call the roll for?
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burrs.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. Congratulations, Alderman Fisk. That
That's it.
concludes everything except call of the wards, beginning with Alderman Holmes.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Tindem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This past week has been a really good one for the city and some of the not-for-profits that we cherish. I went to the opening of the brand-new facility for the Child Care Network of Evanston, CNE, it's the acronym, and they've done an incredible job of refurbishing an existing building with a lot of donations and other things. They deserve an award for design as well as reuse. The other opening was the Mighty Twig. That was also a really exciting experience, very lively, and they've done a very terrific job with what they were able to fundraise. So congratulations to both those groups, and I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I missed the meeting 2 weeks ago in which we welcomed Alderman Braithwaite. So officially, formally welcome Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Braithwaite and I overlapped for the time that I was working at the Evanston Community Foundation, where he served on the foundation's Root to Fruit committee since, I think, 2002. And I know that based upon his service to that committee and the Root to Fruit, that he has a broad and deep understanding of Evanston's challenges, of the agencies, the organizations that do so much good work. And so welcome. It's already been a pleasure working with you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Tendam and I are joining the Central Street Neighbors Association on Thursday evening to discuss all manner of things related to Central Street, the planned streetscaping, 1700 Central Street, which is the empty lot that used to be the theater. So please join us if you'd like to be part of that discussion. We'll do some brainstorming. We'll get updates on where Central Street is these days. It will be at the Ecology Center beginning at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6:30. On April 13th, we, and thank you very much, my colleagues, we're hosting a distracted driving summit at Evanston Township High School from 2:30 till 5:30 that afternoon. It's an early dismissal day at Evanston Township High School. We hope to get not only ETHS students there, the potential drivers, but also existing drivers from our large employers, from the school districts, and from our neighboring municipalities to talk about why distracted driving and cell phones don't mix. This is my messaging. Lobby Day in Springfield on Wednesday. It's an opportunity to tell Evanston's story, but it's also an opportunity to learn to knit. Gretchen Livingston and I, she serves on the District 202 School Board, and I will be giving free knitting lessons to anyone who comes, is riding the bus, and brings along their own supplies. 2 good knit shops in Evanston, Montoya Fiber just south of Central Street on Prairie, and Close Knit on Davis Street in Evanston. So if you'd like to learn to knit, please bring it for the bus. It'll make the time go fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I heard on the radio today an alarming reminder that beginning April 1st, the utilities will begin cutting off all customers who are delinquent. They were restricted all winter because of Illinois Commerce Commission rulings, and evidently there are tens of thousands of people in the city of Chicago who are going to be disconnected because of non-payment. And I would like to request that our staff take a look, contact our contacts at NICOR and Commonwealth Edison regarding what they're projecting in terms of shutoffs in the city of Evanston. South End of Town is very excited about getting an opportunity to host the Starlight Concert and the summer movie program, and city's Howard Street Business Association is meeting on the 14th of April at 7 o'clock. You're welcome to come, and we're going to plan our summer. And also to let you all know that while I can't be really specific, the south end of town, based on the purchases of the 2 properties that we've made, we are interviewing a gallery and a theater for use of some of those properties. So it's very exciting, and please keep your fingers crossed.
Thank you. Alderman Burris?
I attended the Evanston 150 kickoff on Saturday, along with many other aldermen and city administrators and the mayor. And they're hoping that you'll submit your big idea for Evanston through the Evanston 150 website. And I want to say a thank you to many of the not-for-profits and businesses in the community that are sponsoring this amazing endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it was a good night to be a tree in Evanston, so I'm really happy about that. I want to thank you all for your support on the Kendall College property. This has been absolutely a work in progress, and I'm very happy to say that all of the oak trees along Lincoln Street are either gray or green. So we're going to do our best effort to save every single one of those oak trees. I'm sorry we couldn't make everyone entirely happy, but that does happen from time to time. I'm particularly sorry that the 200-year-old ash that's on the Colfax side apparently is not in good enough condition to warrant preservation. So that will be sad when that comes down. But as you all know, this is a neighborhood that's been intimately involved in the development of this parcel. And while there have been some disagreements from time to time, I think everyone is very satisfied. And on behalf of the neighborhood, I would like to say thank you to the developer for being willing to listen to us. But and a special thank you to our city staff who did a fabulous job on this and who was always supportive and always creative and there when we needed them.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Just a quick thank you to, or continued thank you to Wally and the city staff. The past couple of weeks continues to be a learning curve, but your staff has been incredibly helpful and in working with me. I want to specifically thank some folks who stayed late tonight, Grant, Paul Snyder, and Steve Griffin. Along with Steve, please pass along a thank you to Sarah Flax, Jolene, and also Annette Logan. This past couple of weeks has been a lot of fun, just getting around in the ward and getting my fingers dirty with some issues, and you guys have been very helpful. So thank you very much and your quick response. Coming up, we have Wednesday the 30th, I'll be meeting with Canal Park neighbors, one of my first neighborhood groups, to get to know what some of their concerns are, so I'm looking forward to that. And again, to the rest of the ward, April 14th, starting at 7 o'clock, going to 9 o'clock, we'll be having what I'll call a super ward meeting at the Levy Center, and I'm definitely looking forward to meeting all the residents there. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen.
Just two things, Madam Mayor. First, if you have a private elm on your own property, the city does offer private elm insurance. I received my notice from the city, and I urge anyone else to take advantage of the city's insurance. It would be unfortunate if you ever have to use it, but if you do ever have to use it, you will be very glad you bought the elm insurance with the city. The second thing I wanted to comment was that Alderman Rainey and I attended a Red and Purple Line super meeting with the president of the CTA and Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and a number of other Chicago aldermen and staff members to discuss the Red and Purple Line modernization. That discussion continues to move forward, and the CTA is working hard towards that modernization. It's particularly important for us for the Purple Line. It does involve several $billion, but we are thinking positively towards the future. So, and they really appreciated all the comments from Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
No report, but a motion.
But a motion. Thank you. Oh, wait. Alderman Holmes has her light on.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry. I'm being neglectful. I forgot what I did over the weekend, and I wanted to mention two very important things. One is that on Saturday, I, along with the mayor, attended a workshop at Family Focus sponsored by Delta Sigma Theta called Embodiment, and it's a project for young men 10 to 19. And I just want to say there were 98 young men there, and it was an absolutely fabulous time. I had to leave at noon, but it was great. And, you know, we often don't see the positive things that young people are doing, but they were there, and it was a really great day, and a lot of volunteers to do different workshops and stuff. The other thing is that stop by Fire Station 1 because the Fireman Park neighbors have presented the firemen with a wonderful photograph signed by all of the neighbors who worked on the project last summer. So if you want to see something really neat, stop by and see that. That was dedicated to the fire station on Saturday afternoon.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, back to your motion.
Thank you. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding collective bargaining and real estate. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C2, C5, and C6.
Thank you. City Clerk?
There's a second.
Second. Yep. It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes. Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
9-0.
9-0. The motion passes.